Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight for the community meeting regarding the Fawn fire. If you could just take a moment to start with to silence your electronic devices, please. So my name is Chris Harvey. I'm an engine captain with the Sacramento City Fire Department. I serve as a public information officer with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4. We're here tonight to give you the latest information on the Fawn fire and to take your questions and answer your questions. Just a point of order before we get started. If you could please save your questions till the very end, we will ensure that all your questions are answered. The way the meeting is going to proceed is I'll give you some basic numbers about the fire very quickly, and then we'll move through our panel of subject matter experts. They're going to give you the latest information regarding the fire itself, as well as evacuations, orders and warnings and things of that nature. And then at the very end of the meeting, that's when we're going to open it up to questioning. We'll take general questions from the room here. We do have some microphones. I would ask that you wait till the microphone gets to you to ask your question. That enables our sign language interpreter to make sure that people at home have heard your question as well. I would ask that during that period of time, you keep your questions to general questions regarding the fire and general questions perhaps regarding evacuations and things of that nature. If you have specific questions about your home, your property, your street, your livestock, save those questions for afterwards, because we're going to break out to this map on this side or this map on this side, or in the lobby we have some maps set up, and we can do a one-on-one face-to-face with myself, one of the other public information officers that's here tonight, or one of our subject matter experts. If you have a specific question for law enforcement, obviously we can meet with you afterwards. So we will not leave here tonight until all of your questions are answered. We will definitely answer each and every question. It may just be that if it's a more specific question, we would ask that you save that afterwards for the breakout, okay? Thank you. So to start with, I'll just give you the latest numbers we have on the fire. I'm gonna start with the current acreage, which is 7,544 acres, with an asterisk next to that number, because that number represents the acreage as of this morning. Due to smoky conditions on the fire today, we were not able to fly our aircraft, so we didn't get the latest acreage that we normally would get from an IR flight. So that's the acreage as of this morning. However, I can tell you that the latest containment has gone up to 25%, and that's of 5 o'clock this afternoon. At this time, over 9,000 structures remained threatened in all of the various communities surrounding the fire. And I do have some numbers now that are actual specific numbers on damaged and destroyed structures. And this is because our, what we call the DENS team, the damage survey team, was able to arrive on scene yesterday, and they started their survey this morning. So they're actually doing the official street to street, house number by house number survey that began today. Obviously there's a long way to go until that survey is complete, but the preliminary numbers that I have for you at this time that are confirmed are 8 residential structures that are damaged, with 4 outbuildings. These are smaller buildings like sheds or covered gardens, things of that nature. 4 of those are damaged. We have 41 residential structures that are confirmed destroyed at this time, and 90 smaller outbuildings, sheds and like that are confirmed destroyed at this time. And again, as of 5 o'clock, we have 1,886 personnel that are currently assigned to the fire. And with that, I'll turn it over to the sheriff.
Got to get this down to normal size, guys, Mike. Well, it's never pleasant coming in, addressing the community in a state of duress. So under these conditions, I'm sorry that I'm speaking to you for what we're enduring as a county. I know many of you have been displaced. Some of you have lost your homes, and definitely there's a lot of families and lives that have been impacted by this disaster. And of course, it's also difficult to grasp when a disaster like this is apparently not a natural disaster, but we have a suspect and it might be an arson case. So those things make it harder for us all to grasp as a community and to deal with what we're facing. I can tell you this, though, The Shasta County Sheriff's Department, along with all of our partner agencies in this, are working tirelessly to try to minimize those impacts to you, to try to bring the resources of the state and the federal government into our county and resolve this issue as quickly as we can. And speaking of difficult to grasp, you know, when I hear a fire kick off, when we all pretty much hear a fire kick off and you hear, well, it's 40 acres, it's 100 acres, or whatever it is, seemingly it's hard to imagine that all of a sudden the next thing you hear, it's thousands of acres and houses are being destroyed and people's lives are being affected. I can assure you, folks, that it is not for a lack of effort by CAL FIRE, by your local law enforcement, by your local firefighters. I watched from the command post from the day this fire kicked off, a Ferris wheel of planes, helicopters, and other aircraft bombard this fire to try to get it under control. We cannot control, unfortunately, terrain and humidity and wind and the other Mother Nature impacts that make a fire push out into be a disaster and take what it's taken. With that, I would just like to tell you our role, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office role and law enforcement's role in this. We are the law enforcement branch of this event. CAL FIRE is the one managing the event and doing a phenomenal job. Our role is to assist them and to really keep the community first and foremost safe and provide safety for all the public safety and first responders out there to minimize anybody's exposure and try to keep everybody safe. So when you see those evacuation warnings coming out, it's the fire itself is an area, and then the next layer around that fire is what we call the mandatory evacuations, and those are the notices that come out as such. And then the next layer around that are the advisories or the warnings, evacuation warnings. And when you get those, that doesn't necessarily mean you're commanded to evacuate. That means you're supposed to get yourself ready, get all your belongings, and be prepared to leave. And you certainly may choose to leave early if that's what comes out. That's kind of a basics of how it works. We have certain trigger points around the fire perimeter that when the fire reaches those trigger points, that kicks in the next layer of protection and evacuations and notices that come out to you. So in rough basics, that's how it works. Again, our job is to provide safety, the evacuations, and now repopulation of those different zones that have been deemed safe to re-enter and reoccupy. One final thought I'd like to give you with that is when you get the notice that you can reoccupy your particular zone or area or home, you need to know that it may be without power. There's infrastructure damage that still needs to be taken care of. What we're trying to do, all of us here are trying to do, is get you back into your houses, back into your loved ones, back into your livestock, and resume some sort of normalcy as quickly as possible. So I appreciate y'all bearing with us. I thank you for our opportunity to come and get some more communication and answer questions. I'd like to apologize to you all up front that I have another engagement that I wasn't even planning on being here, but it's important to me to come face to face and at least address you. My Lieutenant Caleb McGregor will be staying around to answer any of the questions you have for the Shasta County Sheriff's Office or for the law enforcement end of this event. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shane Lauderdale, Day Operations with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4, and my partner will introduce himself.
My name is Brian Gibalisco. I'm with the Shasta Trinity Unit, and I represent the local. I'm the local battalion chief for the area that's been impacted with the fire.
Not only is he the local battalion chief, but he was the initial incident commander and responsible for the success that along with the rest of the troops that you're witnessing here. So I'll start by just giving you an overview of where we're at today, and then at the question and answer section, the chief can answer specific questions you may have about his role or where we're at with the incident. So today, I just want to start with was I wasn't sure if it was going to be a successful day because it started out a little rough. But at the end, I'm here to tell you that we had an incredible amount of success, and I always say that with bated breath because weather and those things can change, and very quickly we can be in a different situation than we are now. But if we can continue to have the success that they've had so far today, we will be able to find that we're able to wrap this incident up what we would call very quickly. Probably for you, not as quickly as you would like, but for us, it would be very quickly. So we'll start, and Brian's going to help us out by pointing to the map, since I can't look behind me. And we'll start on Division Bravo. Division Bravo, that's fine, I'll do this, thank you. Division Bravo goes directly down into the lake, and so I'll just start coming up from the lake. We've built a large line with bulldozers down to the lake, and that now, as we speak, is being burned in by the crews so that we have a contained fire line all the way from the lake, from the waters, well, not to the water this year, but down to the high water mark, up and into the quarry that's above on the gray rocks. And then that carries down into Fawndale, just east of the power lines. That, again, has been very successful today. Just before I came in, the Deputy Operations finished flying the fire. And he said all of that is holding very, very well. We are looking at aggressive mop-up in the next few days in that area. If you know that area, you know that there are heavy fuels, timber, and other heavy fuels that will have to be mopped up. So that's going to take us some time, but again, very successful. As you work down from Bravo into Alpha, that's an area that was impacted very hard by the initial phases of the fire, where we have a lot of damage, and so we're going to continue to do mop-up for several days to ensure that those homes that are not damaged remain that way, are not affected later, and that we're able to get any of the hazards that exist mitigated. As we move down into Yankee, again in that area, Division Yankee, we were able to do much of the mop-up today, but we'll have much more to do in the coming days. Moving over into Whiskey, which is really Bear Mountain Road to Dry Creek, if you want to reference yourself. Division Whiskey, pardon me, because of the way the fire came at Bear Mountain Road, there's a lot of what we call indirect lines. So we have a combination of dozer, hose lays, and hand line all along Bear Mountain Road. So throughout today, crews have been validating that, cutting down hazard trees, and ensuring that we have mop-up contained. That, again, will continue for the next few days. They have an incredible amount of work doing in mop-up, but no fire growth on that side. As we move into the area that is uniform, which is Bear Mountain, basically the Lookout Road is where uniform is, down to Dry Creek. That's the area we started with today that, I'll just be honest with you, I thought we had a 50-50 chance of keeping it there. So what we did is we focused many of our resources, we moved them from other parts of the fire into Jones Valley, into the other areas there, and began to focus our attention. We were blessed with the fact that the air opened up about 12 o'clock, and we were able to start getting helicopters in to support the troops. So as we speak, they are briefing to do a final firing operation down into the lake behind Bear Mountain, and we have very, very high probability of success. I would say it's 90% probability of success. So that's what we're looking at tonight, and that is our update for the day.
All right, good evening. My name is Ryan Walbrin, and I am the incident meteorologist serving on the Fawn fire. I work for the National Weather Service, and they send us out across, to serve on these fires across California. What I want to say, what Sean just briefed to, is for the burn operation up there in Division Mike Tango. So tonight the winds look favorable for that. And when we look at these fires, we look at the fuels, we look at the weather, and we look at the topography. So I'm here to support the weather operation. What I'd like to say is that tomorrow things continue to look favorable. We continue to expect like a light southerly flow that would push it towards the lake in terms of what the general wind flow is going to be. Temperatures by Reading standards are going to be relatively cool, still in the upper 80s, lower 90s. And the humidities are going to trend a little bit higher, so those things are actually in our favor. So we have another 24 hours or so of favorable weather. In terms of like supporting, and let me just step back and say that this summer and last summer, I've personally been evacuated by wildfires from my residence, so I speak from a point of empathy. As we get into Monday, I do want to say that we are expecting a cold frontal passage. That's going to bring a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news. We'll expect much stronger southerly winds through the day, south-southwest, so it will push up towards that Jones Valley. That's why they're working hard tonight to put that burn operation in. So I share that information to emphasize the idea that you need to have patience, and even if things look good tomorrow, we need to wait for this cold frontal passage on Monday. So that's going to bring some wind. If you pay attention to the local news or whatever, you'll hear the talk of rain. Right now, the best estimate is that on Monday night we would get a few hundredths or less than a tenth of an inch. In the fire weather world, we use that term, a wetting rain. So if we just get a few hundredths, it's really not enough to have an impact on the fuels. I think everybody here knows we're in an incredible drought for the last 2 years. So that rain will probably be negligible over this fire. If I'm wrong and we get more rain, then that's good news. The good news is that Monday night into Tuesday, we do expect much cooler temperatures. I will say that the winds are going to then shift and go to more of a north-northwest direction. In terms of kind of monitoring these fires, anytime there's a change in the weather, that's always a heads-up situation. So as the winds are changing direction, changing speed, humidity is going up and going down, it always kind of changes the tactics a little bit and how they're going to fight the fire. So that being said, things look really good, I think, tomorrow. I expect more good air in the afternoon for the air operations. All the things that we look at are in our favor. Monday's a little bit of a watch-out day with that cold frontal passage. That's always a key buzzword in the fire weather world. And then I think we'll really benefit from those cooler temperatures and higher humidity as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday. With that, I'll stand off. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Pemberton. I'm a fire behavior analyst with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4. So touching on what you just heard from Ryan, fuels, weather, topography. You just heard the weather side of it. Topography, you all live here. You know what it's like. For those of you who are watching online and may not know, it's a combination of steep and steeper for most of the areas of concern. There are a lot of drainages that help channel that wind. So you heard about the wind flow coming from the south and then from the north and back to the south. That's the general winds up aloft, but it really gets channeled in the drainages, in the creeks and rivers, and it likes to get a little squirrely, especially on the east side of Bear Mountain toward Jones Valley. What that means is that the wind is going to keep pressuring those lines. The rest of the fire triangle, besides the topography and the weather, is the fuels. We all know we've been in a drought in California for quite a few number of years. The fuels are basically around the 90th percentile, which means that they are drier and more explosively flammable than 90% of all the rest of the days in recorded history for this area, and that's saying something for fires in Shasta County. So that is what our firefighters are up against, and that is basically, in my opinion, it goes to show just how much of an effort has been put in to keep this where it is, because this had the potential for even more explosive growth than it did have. So my tip of my hat to the local unit for keeping it in a much better condition than it could have been. looking forward with the frontal passage that you heard Ryan talk about, it's going to continue to test the lines. However, touching back on what Shane Lauderdale was talking about, we have some really good containment lines on the east and northeast end of the fire in the Jones Valley area. So we are not expecting any potential or any massive growth in those areas. There is always potential, and they are certainly building containment line and contingencies just in case there is any additional fire spread. But as the fire behavior analyst, I'm here to let you know I'm feeling very good about the situation as it currently stands. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brett Gavea. I'm the CAL FIRE Shasta Trinity Unit Chief, and I also have the distinction of being your Shasta County Fire Department Chief. Unfortunately, our communities are affected again, and that's something that I think Shasta County is accustomed to. We've been through this a number of times, and if anything, when we start seeing these types of things again, it brings a lot of angst to the communities, not just the ones that are immediately impacted, but the ones that are throughout the county based on our history of what we've seen here. So we are with you. We take it personal. Every one of your homes out there, every one of you that are displaced tonight, every one of our firefighters take that very personal. So with that being said, our number one goal is to get you back to your homes, to get you back into your locations, and try to, bring some peace to this chaos. And we will do that, and we're going to do that quickly. I'll talk about a couple of things that we were fortunate when this fire started, that really a lot of the fires in the state of California have calmed down for us. A lot of our firefighters made it home. And so we had the full force of folks here when this fire started. I can't say enough about our local cooperators from the day one. The Shasta County Sheriff's Department, they are one of the best in the state when it comes to evacuations and helping us. They are well exercised at what they do. The City of Reading Fire Department, the City of Reading Police Department stepped in and helped us immediately. But that's all of our community fire departments. Mountain Gate Fire Protection District opened their station to us. And all the fire protection districts, volunteer companies throughout Shasta County, Trinity County, Tehama County, they came that first day. Not to mention, in that following day, we have resources from all over the state here now. So I will tell you that the state put its full weight of resources behind us. We had all the aircraft that we asked for. We had all the resources that we asked for. So our goal is to hit it hard. After the first night, going into the second day, we realized the impact of this fire, and I made the decision to order a CAL FIRE Incident Management Team. So I am very happy that CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 4 is here with Chief Pemberton as their incident commander, and they're doing an outstanding job. Our goal is to hit this fire as hard as we can with as much as we can and put it down and get it done and get you back to your homes. So that's our goal. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to be here with you till the end. There will be a recovery process. One thing I know about Shasta County is we're very resilient, and we've shown that in the past. We will get back to it. We recover from this, and we'll get back to some normalcy very soon. So thank you for coming out tonight. We're very humbled that you're here tonight to listen to us, and we look forward to your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Gavea, for the kind words for my incident management team. Good evening. My name is Jeff Pemberton. I proudly serve as the incident commander for CAL FIRE IMT 4. You need to be extremely proud of your local cooperators, as Chief Gavea led in with. We coming here from all over the state. I work normally in San Diego. It's a long trek. But we came here and had a very successful plan that we were able to pick up from your local firefighters, law enforcement, local EOC. We don't always receive that. It makes our job a lot easier to be able to come in and support you, the community, and your local firefighters and law enforcement and other public responders. Our biggest commitment is to you and getting you back into your residences. It's not always as fast as we would like it to be, and we know it's never as fast as you would like it to be. As you heard, we're currently doing our damage assessment. We've got some of those numbers ready to be released. We will get that to you probably sometime tomorrow. I'm very hopeful, if not sooner. And with that, we will get you back into your homes and repopulate you as soon as it's safe to do so. And as you saw today, we're already moving folks back in and reducing some of those orders to warnings. I think it's also important to note that you as a community are very fortunate to have an air attack base with aircraft not only here on base ready to go quickly, but also able to reload that retardant every time that we drop it on an incident. To date, your local tanker base has dropped 18 million gallons of retardant. That's a tremendous number. I believe that's a record for them. On this fire alone, they dropped over 163,000 gallons of retardant. That is one of the major successes of this incident. It was a pleasure to come here and pick up this incident from your community. I just ask that you stay vigilant, stay informed on the fire conditions, and we'll get you back to your new sense of normal within your community. Thank you.
Okay, as we described earlier, we will now move to the question and answer portion of the meeting. I would ask, again, at this point, if you have a question that's general about the whole fire that will benefit the entire audience, please ask it at this time. If you have a more specific question about your neighborhood, your street, your property, please wait till the end and we'll get your question answered in the breakout. So to start with, anybody in the audience that has a question for Shasta County Sheriff's Office, can you please raise your hand? Right here in the middle. We'll come over with the microphone, sir. Keep your hand up for just a second, please.
Name's Jamie Goodwine. My question for Shasta County Sheriff's Office is, are they looking at state and federal emergency response as far as finances?
So specific to this incident, when these incidents happen and they meet certain thresholds, we apply for a federal mitigation grant that allows us to recoup some of the costs. It's not a complete reimbursement. On this fire, we submitted that. It goes through our state Office of Emergency Services and then to FEMA. It was approved. It's called an FMAG, and we, not only the state, but anybody else that's on the response side that's directly affected on the government entities gets 75% of every dollar that we expended, so we are getting some recovery.
Any other questions for Shasta County Sheriff? All the way in the back, sir.
I think this is for Shasta County. When we get the evacuation or the rehabilitation message request to come back in, I know the one that we got earlier was really vague. And it just said, you're able to come back in your area. And it didn't really tell us. And then when we go up there, then you're barricaded off, you can't get in. So is there more of a clarification for everybody so we're not all going at the same time and then having to turn around and come back?
Right.
I'm not trying to be negative. We need to be kind of more clear.
I completely understand. That's a great question.
Thank you.
We try to be as clear and concise as we possibly can. How these are disseminated is through our code red. So we essentially reverse our code red process, and we'll send a message out to the residences affected in the area that's going to be repopulated. And then we also do social media. CAL FIRE puts out a press release. So to answer your question, if there was some vagueness and confusion, if you can get with me afterwards and we can identify that so we can help mitigate that in the future for all of you.
And just to clarify further, each day on this incident, our law enforcement officers, our law enforcement liaison, CAL FIRE personnel, we all stand around a large map and are discussing basically not just the firefight, and this is a common question we get. Residents will say, hey, there's no fire around my house, why can't I go home? This was touched on earlier today. Suppression repair, utilities, down trees. There's a number of things that continue to have to happen to get mitigated before we can let you back in your neighborhood. So as those road closures are lifted, as those evacuation orders are dropped to warnings, the evacuation warnings are dropped to lifting those warnings. Those are put out as press releases through CAL FIRE on the CAL FIRE Shasta Facebook page, CAL FIRE Shasta Twitter page, the Shasta County Sheriff's Facebook and Twitter, as well as the Reading Police Department. So follow those on social media for the latest information. And specifically to your question today, it was brought up that there was some vague language that's been addressed. Moving forward from today, the language is going to be much clearer and more concise. Any other questions for Shasta County Sheriff? Right down here in the middle. Josh, here, keep your hand up, sir, please.
We got one here.
Oh, all the way in the back. We'll go with you, sir.
Hi, my name is Chad Magnuson, a resident of off Bear Mountain Road, and I'm impressed by the collaborative effort from all the agencies doing the work. So I thank you ahead of time for everything you've done so far and what you got ahead of you to do. My question is a general question, and I'm hoping there's an answer, but who's the official in charge of the fire?
That would be CAL FIRE is in charge of the fire.
So any road closures, any kind of social media information we get, if it doesn't come from CAL FIRE, should we basically not pay attention to it?
No, the sheriff's office also puts that out. Like Mr. Harvey said, there's a lot of communication that goes on prior to this information. Road closures, repopulation, that kind of language is all discussed prior to that going out, and then it goes out through the various agencies involved in the incident: Reading Police Department, CAL FIRE, Shasta County Sheriff's Office.
But there's not one clearinghouse that everything goes through?
It starts with CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE puts out the message, and then we cut and paste, copy that, and put it on our sites as well.
Okay.
So,
okay. I don't mean
if it's coming from
for that question. I just mean that we've been getting, and we depend on social media for a lot of our information that we get, and a lot of it seems contradictory. I know it's only been a few days into this whole event, but it's kind of getting to the point now, well, who do we listen to?
Right.
That's all.
Thank you.
So I can speak to that just a little bit more, sir, and that is that the cooperating agencies, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, CAL FIRE, the local fire, Reading Fire, Police, Reading Police, we're all together in base camp. We are all working together on that message, and then it will be disseminated on the various platforms. But I would say your most trusted sources are going to be the CAL FIRE Shasta unit, Facebook and Twitter, the Shasta County Sheriff's Facebook and Twitter. Those are your main sources of information that's going to be accurate. And then the other agencies tend to amplify that message. The police department will take our press releases and also share them on their platforms as well. So it all begins, though, with all of these agencies with their heads together over a table in base camp, and then goes out on the various platforms. Josh, did you have somebody else back there?
I just wanted to comment on that prior question from up here. I called 211, the emergency fire number, and was able to get really good information about whether it was okay to come back or not. And thank you all for all your great work.
Thank you very much for the reminder. 211 is a great resource. You can call 211 on your phone. It'll connect you immediately to a person that basically has that latest information on road closures and evacuations right in front of them. So you can always call 211 to get the latest information as well. This gentleman here in the sleeveless shirt, he's coming over for you, sir.
We were given on, I believe it was on Thursday, we were given an immediate evacuation order. I live off of East Stillwater, North End, 299, right? And the fire wasn't anywhere near us. And so I'm like, and all my neighbors around me got the alert at the same time. And everyone's scared and they're loading, and I said, well, this isn't right. There's something wrong here. And so I dialed 911 just to get confirmation on this, and she said, if you got the alert, then you need to evacuate now. But then I went to investigate myself, and I found out that the fire was still on the north side of Bear Mountain Road. So I couldn't understand why we were so far away. Why were they giving us the evacuation order immediately?
So what happens, and that does happen occasionally, and I apologize for your frustration on that, when we're going through these and the incident's very fluid and evolving quickly, lines are drawn out in how our system works through IPAWS, EAS, Code Red. When those lines are drawn out, it's a geographical boundary. So when that was drawn out, your area could have been included in that. So how IPAWS works is it's a geographical notification, and that will catch cell phones too within a geographical boundary. So that could have been what happened in your case.
Also, the wording was very vague. They said anyone east of I-5 and north of Old Oregon Trail, which made absolutely no sense.
Right. And that wouldn't encompass you because you're north of
It should have been east of, I-5 and north of 299. That would have been the logical way to word it. So it was really confusing. I didn't really understand what they meant.
Okay. I apologize. It's always a work in progress when we're going through these things. So.
Yes, good evening. I have a quick question. I was listening to a report about the suspected arsonist, that she was picked up earlier that evening with a suspected fire, let go, and started this fire. Can you put some clarification on that?
I can't. That's this investigation on the criminal side isn't the sheriff's office conducting the investigation. It's going to be CAL FIRE prevention officers that are conducting that investigation. And I'm not sure if she was picked up earlier that evening and released or not.
And just to further clarify, we've been asked to direct all questions regarding that particular arrest to the district attorney's office, and they have indicated that they are willing to answer questions. So if the public has questions regarding that, you can call the district attorney's office to get clarification.
Chris, I have one back here.
One in the back.
Thank you for all you do for us. But my question is regarding the Code Red, as far as how that works with, because I heard you talk about the cell phone ping. If you live at the address but you're not home, you won't get the notification. Is that correct?
Well,
how does the Code Red work?
As far as Code Red goes, and I don't know if hopefully everybody in the room signed up for it. So how Code Red would work is you would go on to our website, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, Reading Police Department also has a website. Shastcom.com is also a website you can sign up. So how that works is you register your name, your address, and your phone number, and that can be your landline phone number or your cell phone number. And once you're registered, then you should receive those notifications if you're in the affected area.
Awesome. The other question I had was regarding the 211 for the road closures. Is that only local or is that throughout the state?
That's a good question, and I don't have the answer for you.
If you dial 211, it takes you to the local 211 exchange throughout the state. So wherever you are, if you call 211, it pings you and you'll go to the local 211 exchange. Okay. We're going to keep moving at this point. If we have questions still that are general questions, let's go ahead and ask them, but we do need to get questions for other people on stage here. If you have specific questions for Shasta County Sheriffs, we can break out afterwards and face-to-face if you have questions, okay? We'll take one more here, and then we'll move on to our next.
So the notice I got from the Sheriff's Department, like everybody else said, was vague and said your area has been cleared, lifted. Warnings, evacuation warnings have been lifted in your area. You may resume normal activity. And then it says, please check zonehaven.com. Upon checking zonehaven.com, my area was indeed only under warning and no longer under an order, but I went in and was turned away. Later in the day, Zonehaven updated to show finally that it was under an order. So Zonehaven seems to be far behind the time. And is there a better way to report this, a better way to have somebody that is actually on time with the reporting?
Yeah, and I think that question's been answered. We do realize there were some hiccups today, and Zone Haven is, we are the ones that make those changes on the map. So if there was a hiccup in that, then that would have been on our fault in drawing that area in.
And sir, just finally, regarding Zone Haven, that was what I addressed earlier today. In terms of the vagueness of the language, that check Zone Haven came at the bottom of that message. Moving forward, that's going to come at the beginning. So that the first thing you should be doing is checking Zone Haven. It'll be updated in a more timely fashion, and it hopefully won't give you a false sense, hey, my warning's been lifted, I can go back, and then you check Zone Haven, and that's not the case. So we're going to change that wording moving forward, sir. Okay, so if you have a question for Shasta County Sheriff after this, we'll just please bring it to them on the breakout session. Do you have any questions for ops now at this point? CAL FIRE ops related to the actual firefight? Okay, seeing none. Any questions for our weather? So as the fire behavior analyst and the weather gentleman from the Weather Service described, it's largely dependent on what we're going to see Monday night moving into Tuesday. We don't like to make guesses on what the fire timeline is going to be when we face some uncertainty in terms of what the weather can do, since these fires are so largely driven by weather. So I can't tell you whether it's going to be a week or two. As Chief Pemberton said, and as has been described, we're obviously working as hard as we possibly can to get it out as quickly as we possibly can. Any questions specific to weather? Gentleman back here.
Yeah, I was going to ask the weatherman what, on the night of the fire, I saw the fire start. I live on a ranch below, on the south of the rock quarry, and I have an area in there, and I could see it back there, and the wind was blowing from the south, blowing towards Shasta Lake. But it was predicted, I heard it on the TV or something, that there was going to be a change in the direction, and it was going to go opposite direction and blow right through my property. So, and exactly what it did. It came up 30 miles an hour or more. That morning, the following morning, I watched the fire glow all night, and it started at 20 acres, it went to 40, and it was still contained up there. So I went up to Fawndale, and that's where all the staging was. They had all the fire trucks, everything was up there, but they couldn't fight the fire from there because it's too rough a terrain. So they were stuck. But I have 200 acres out there, and so I drove up there and told the commander, you know, you really could bring some equipment, since that weather's going to change in the morning, and we know it is, and it's going to blow hard. Blow right down there. You can come over to my place and stop it there, like that. And so that next morning, sure enough, it was blowing 35 miles an hour, gusts up, and it went through like a blowtorch. I live at the base of Blue Ridge, and there's a valley in there with 2 gray rock mountains. That's my property, and I had my home, barns, ranch, all that. It's leveled, lost everything, my whole life in there. And I just wondered why they couldn't bring some of that equipment and bring it down to my area, down where you knew the fire was going to blow to. And it did.
Sir, I think I'm the one that you talked to that night. So I can tell you that it took us 3 hours to get into that fire. So we had to cut into it with crews, and then we went behind them with hose lines. We were 600 feet from tying it in on the east side up to Blue Ridge. And then we were also about 500 feet from tying it in. And that's when the wind surfaced about midnight. And we did, the crews did exceptionally well holding it. And then at 4 o'clock is when that north wind really surfaced, and it spotted, I believe, above your place there at the end of Sunrise. So the guys tried to catch it, and we were just unsuccessful.
Another question about the weather, sir?
Again, that was the night that the wind surfaced, and it.
I'm sorry, I disagree. There was not much wind when they came back. Now listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
There was not much wind. There was still lots of daylight. They hit that.
Are,
They stopped.
are you saying hit it with the aircraft?
Yes, they stopped. They stopped the helicopter. They stopped the plane, and there was still plenty of daylight to hit it.
Do you
Why did they stop?
do you know what time that was?
What?
Do you know what time that was?
That was probably around 5:30 when they stopped. Because I saw the smoke at 4, between 4 and 4:30. So explain to me why. That's what I want to know. Because if you guys would have hit it that day hard and not stop, it would have been out. I mean, I saw white, whispery, smoke. And I thought, okay, you guys have it out. That's why they called the planes off. And then the next day it blows up. Do you understand? I'm pissed about that because it should have been out. And nobody's answering that question. Why were the planes pulled off? Why didn't they keep going until that son of a bitch was out? Period.
And to my knowledge, those planes were there. They were hammering that thing.
No, that's not true. I live right there. I told you the planes were flying directly over my head, headed north. And then they stopped. And that's what I want to know is why did they stop? Had they not stopped, fire would have been out.
My neighbors saw exactly the same.
Okay, I can tell you there was no orders for the planes to stop. So I'm going to tell you right now, the fire was dispatched at 4:43. Okay? We dropped in an hour and a half of flight time is all we had. We had an hour and a half of flight time. We dropped 53,929 gallons of retardant on that fire.
Okay, there was still daylight. Why did you keep going until it was dark?
What I'm saying is we never stopped the aircraft from flying until the end of flight time.
No, I'm sorry, you're lying.
Flight time is when it's no longer safe for the aircraft to fly because of daylight.
So you're saying none of that aircraft had night vision? You're saying none of those helicopters had night vision?
That's correct.
You're saying that?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm calling bullshit.
Okay, that's fine.
I've been fired for 48 years. I serviced all those aircraft out there, and you're telling me none of those had night radar?
Our air tankers do not fly at night. We do have. There are some helicopters in the state that fly at night. We did not have any helicopters that were nighttime flight that first night.
You know, this is getting out of hand because it's not about that.
No, you're right.
It's about when they shut them down. And it was early. There was still lots of daylight. And I'm going to stand by that because I was there watching them go overhead. There was still plenty of daylight. It should have stopped.
Sir, I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm telling you from what I know and my information. We dropped 53,000 gallons of retardant in an hour and a half, and those aircraft were never called off. We don't call our aircraft off as long as the fire is burning. That is our policy. So, I will be more than happy to look into what you're saying for sure. But I'm going to tell you,
Sir, let's try and keep things civil here. First of all, we have a number of other people here that have questions.
Flew until they could no longer fly due to daylight. I would have to go back and check with our air attack base. Okay. So, but 53,000 gallons of retardant didn't get dropped with 3 drops.
I don't believe, you know what, I understand that, and I'm grateful. But what I'm saying, flat out, is why did they stop early? If it was not out, why did they stop early? Why didn't they keep going until it was dark, until they couldn't?
So all I can tell you sitting here talking with you, I'm not disputing what you're saying. To my knowledge, as the fire chief, we sent everything we had in this unit, and we sent it to that fire that night until we could no longer fly aircraft. That's to my knowledge.
You did fly, and you did hit it hard. I was there, I watched them just do circles, and they just kept coming and coming. But the problem is they stopped.
Well, what I'll tell you what we'll do.
Okay, let me just pause here for a second. You're saying essentially the same thing, and so is he. So I'm going to ask you at this point. There are still people here that have questions. I'm going to ask you to sidebar. We're not going to leave until you get your questions answered. You're going to have an opportunity to talk about this. But in this forum, we have other people that have questions for these experts up here, and then we can move to a sidebar, sir. Is that okay? We will not leave until your question's answered. Sir, you in the back in the orange shirt as well. We are going to talk to you about this. But let's respect the other members of the audience who still have questions at this point. Okay?
One more brief comment. We are looking into that right this second, and we'll bring you some accurate information before this is over, okay? I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm saying to my knowledge, and we're checking with our air base right now, we have very good records, very accurate records on every flight, every drop. So we're going to get that information for you, and we'll get it back to you. Okay, we're going to get that information for you.
We're going to respond to what you just told us, sir. Okay, give us a chance to get a hold of our air ops and we'll respond to it. We're not going to leave here without answering your questions. We're not trying to evade you. At this point, I want to respect the other people who are here who may still have questions. We will answer your questions before we leave.
We got one
Continuing on, does anybody else have any questions for our weather?
Here, Chris. Back here, Chris.
Go ahead.
This is kind of a mundane question after that little session, but when you guys give these stats out, like the first stat said, so many acres had burned. I think it was 40, and then it went to 80, and then it went to 1,000 and stuff like that. And the containment portion always says like 5% contained. What does that actually mean? I think today's record even said 5% contained.
So this map in front of me here does not have any black line. It's all red line. But if you see containment basically shows on our map as black line. And what black line mean and what containment means, if it says 5%, it's 5% of that fire perimeter. And that means that that fire is not just out at that location, but out in depth. So there's been mop up, there's been limbing of trees, there's been bulldozer blades, there's been whatever they need to do to make that fire so that it won't jump over, ideally, obviously.
So 5% is the
5% would represent, there would be 5% of the perimeter would be black line. In fact, there's some black line now, I can see it here. That represents containment in depth where they feel confident that the fire cannot jump over that line. And as they work around the perimeter of the fire, that containment number goes up as they put in more line. Unfortunately, containment number percentage is a percentage of the fire size, right? So as the fire grows larger, the containment may stay at 5%, even though they're continuing to add to the containment line because it represents a percentage of the size of the perimeter of the fire. So it may stay at 5% for several days and then suddenly jump, as it did today, to 25% because it represents that the fire did not grow very much larger, but they were able to get a lot more containment line in. Yeah, the lake would be part of what I described in terms of containment and depth, that it's not going to jump over the fire line. And obviously, having that large body of water is going to add to that percentage of containment as it burns up. As was pointed out earlier, it's not going to burn to the water line, it's going to burn to the high water mark since the lake is so low right now. 25%.
And where is that 25% on the map? Because it's interesting that you mentioned the black lines would denote that, and there are no black lines.
Yeah, this map is from earlier today. You can see a small, I don't have the pointer. Shane, do you still have the pointer? Of course, this isn't working now. It's this small piece that's just to the east of where it says Tower Fish Net. There's a small percentage of black line right there, and the rest is all red. This map is not updated. As I said, we did not have the ability to fly our mapping flight today that would represent the most accurate numbers. This is from this morning. But I can tell you the percentage of containment has gone up to 25. Okay, any other questions for weather?
It's not for the weather, but I'm just curious, did it ever jump I-5?
No, there's no fire west of I-5 on this incident. Any questions for the fire behavior analysts? Seeing none?
Right here.
I'm sorry.
Hi, I don't know who this pertains to, but I think all of us have been looking at the thermal satellite maps with all the hot spots on them, and I was wondering how accurate they are. Like if you see a hot spot not on your property, is there a good chance that your house still exists, if anyone knows?
With technology, we use it as a tool. I'm just going to say, for us, when I see that, I say, okay, I need to check it out. I know that's not a technical answer, but that's what it means to me. And so we actually put people on the ground to go out and validate those very things. And the reason we aren't able to give you the area that's 25% is we have to break such a large incident into parts of this team. So I'm a part of the operations team. The deputy operations flew the fire before we came here. He went back, put the 25% on the map, and I don't know exactly where that is, but he does.
That's correct. Yeah, it doesn't all have to be one piece of line. And to speak further to your question, sir, not about hotspots, but about in terms of determining whether or not your property is still standing or damaged, that's much more a function of what we call the DINs, the damage inspection teams. They got here last night. They've been out on the fire all day today, and they're going to continue to work through the evening and into tomorrow. There is a website. I don't have it in front of me now, but that website is going to go out on our social media probably tomorrow on the CAL FIRE, Shasta, Facebook, and Twitter. And what it is it's a link to a website that you can go to. And that data is compiled by the DINS team, and it's literally house to house. Your house will show up as green, yellow, red, or black on this map based on their street number, house to house to house survey. And there's a legend on the side of the map that'll basically tell you what that means. But generally speaking, it's 25, 50, 75%, and 100% in terms of damaged or destroyed. So they're working very hard on that. They've got DINs that are local. They've also got DINs that have come from all over California that started on that process today. We'll put that website link out tomorrow so you'll have access to that information. And it's constantly updated. We don't wait till we're all done with the survey. As we go through the neighborhoods, it's posted, and you can go, and if you don't see an icon over where your house is, it just means that the team hasn't gotten to your neighborhood yet. On the CAL FIRE social media, CAL FIRE Shasta, Facebook, Twitter, yep, and then the Shasta County Sheriff's Facebook and Twitter as well. Excuse me. Any other questions?
I got one back here.
Okay.
I was wondering why the planes didn't come back early the next morning or even before noon the next day. Where were all the planes when we needed them then?
Another aircraft question?
Okay, so we did request an early up. Normally our aircraft is not ready to fly until 10 a.m. in the morning. Due to all their mechanics checks, getting the airbase all fired up and everything going, we asked for an early up. So that's what we got. We had aircraft, I want to say it was before 9 a.m. we had aircraft on the fire. 8? It was 8 a.m.? Okay. So those are other exact numbers I have to get. I do have the numbers on our air attack and our 2 tankers that were flying the fire. And there were approach changes too, so they might not fly right over your house due to winds and due to other air traffic. So Okay, that's fine. You can believe me or not, but I'm going to give you some data right now. Correct. Yeah. 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 Okay, so the information I'm going to give you right now, you're going to dispute it, but I'm going to give it to you, okay? So I understand, sir, but all I can tell you is the logs that we have at the airbase and the ships that are flying, those are kept very close. I will tell you that those travel lanes change due to winds and due to other commercial aircraft into Reading Airport.
Sir, please let him finish, okay?
I would just give you the data, and then we can talk afterwards. I'm more than happy to give you all the information you're asking for. I can give you official logs even. That's all I can tell you. I can tell you it's not our business to stop flying aircraft on fires that are still burning. There is no reason for that. I'm sending everything I got to extinguish every fire as fast as we can, and that's what we do. So you see 3 planes. One of them is our air tax ship that directs the flight of the tankers. We had 2 air tankers on the fire, Tanker 9-4 and Tanker 9-5. This gentleman left. To his point, dark was at 7:05. Those planes landed after dark. Their last drops, Tanker 9-4 landed at Reading Air Base at 7:12. And Tanker 9-5 landed at Reading Air Base at 7:23. They cannot take back off after that time due to light conditions. Our tankers do not have nighttime ability. So that is the numbers that I have specifically from our air attack base. Those tankers, like I said, to my knowledge, there would be no reason other than fueling, reloading retardant, and getting them back to the fire. That is our policy. That's what we do.
Okay, so you're saying that the fire is still burning out of control and they have to leave. Is that what you're saying?
At dark. So what happens is, yes. So at dark, what happens when they make their last drops, there's a certain time that when they land to reload and refuel, that they're not allowed to take back off due to light conditions. And that time is 7:24. They cannot take back off.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm sorry.
No, I'm like I said, I'm not disputing what you saw. I'm not disputing what you saw. All I can give you is the exact information that I have, and I can tell you the direction that I give my airbase and our operations staff to fight these fires. We throw everything we have at them. And that's the only thing I can tell you. And I can't dispute that if you don't believe me. But I can tell you sincerely that's what we do. They are starting to add those to helicopters. That's still being phased in. As you know, the CAL FIRE fleet of helicopters is being upgraded right now. And as they upgrade those helicopters, they're coming with that capabilities. Yes, you're correct, but not CAL FIRE helicopters, sir. Other helicopters have had that. The CAL FIRE fleet just started being replaced this last year. And it is slowly being replaced. So I don't dispute what you're saying either. You're correct. It's just CAL FIRE hasn't had any helicopters with nighttime capabilities. We're getting that capability, though. So it is a priority. It just takes time to build them. They're coming from across the seas. There's 9 CAL FIRE helicopters that are being built. We already have 3 in service right now. And they're being built and delivered as fast as they can. That just takes time. No, they're from Poland. Sikorsky. So we are flying Hawks. But I want to answer one other question real quick, and I know you want to get moving with this, but it's important that we get the information correct tonight. Information's always really hard on these things. So you heard the ops chief say that there's a 90% success of tying this fire into the fire tonight. Okay? That means this fire is not going to move anymore tomorrow. I will say that they won't, because always something bad can happen, right? Spot fires can happen, things can happen. We're hitting this thing as hard as we can, folks. We're giving it everything we've got. And the folks out there on the ground are taking this very personally. And they're giving you everything they got. So we're going to hold it. It's going to be done this week, okay? But it's hard to say that something bad can't happen to us out there. We have a lot of fire on the ground. It's a drought season. Spot fires occur. Sometimes when we evac people far out in front, this thing, it's not the main fire that got us. It's all the spot fires. 1,000 spot fires landed, a mile out in front of this thing. So that's why we start evacuating further out, and it might not be to you or doesn't look like it, but sometimes you'll get that evacuation order. I'm not sure if that was the case or what it was the lieutenant was saying, but I'm sure it might have been. But I just wanted to explain that too. Sometimes we're asking you to go before it seems like you need to. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that too. So I appreciate your guys' observations, your questions, and I'm available for you after this as well if you want a sidebar at all.
Okay, at this point, let's go ahead and move the meeting into the sidebar. If you have questions that have not been answered, please approach one of us. We're all going to stay here until your questions are answered. We have our fire behavior analyst, our weather, we have law enforcement, we have firefighters here. So please come and see us at the map here, or at the map in the lobby. If you have a specific question for one of us, we'd be happy to help you out. Thank you.